Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Coup Coach Cast with Jim Glogowski. I'm your host, Chad Birger. Sam's off this week. We're going to go ahead and recap the Cougars' Week 8 game versus Winona State, and then we'll preview the Week 9 matchup versus the Pitt State Gorillas. To start off with, to review the Winona State game, it ended up 42-35 Winona State. Winona moves to 4-4 on the season, 4-3 in conference. Sioux Falls drops to 3-5 with the loss, and all the Cougars games have been in conference, so their conference record is 3-5. You can see the quarter by quarter recap here. Cougars were ahead 20-14 at halftime, and then Winona put up a big margin, 2 touchdowns in both the third and fourth quarter for the victory. Scoring summary is USF started off with a Camden Dean to Carter Slakehouse 11-yard touchdown catch with 8:58 left in the first quarter. 4-minute drive that culminated with the Slakehouse touchdown catch. Then on the very next play after the kickoff, Mr. Karen Hendred ran 75 yards for a touchdown, which was matched the Cougars score after the Jacob Scott kick. Slakehouse then caught a 31-yard touchdown reception from Cam Dean to put the Cougars up. And then in the second quarter, Adonis Hutchinson caught a 51-yard touchdown pass from Dean. That was an 8-play, 81-yard drive, which put the Cougars up by 2 scores. Late in the second quarter, there was another 77-yard touchdown run, which closed the gap for Winona going into halftime to make it a 1-score game. In the third quarter, following the Cougars' fumble, Hendred did put an 11-yard touchdown run on the board, which put Winona on top, and that gave them a lead at that point in the game, 21-20. And then later on in that quarter, right near the end of the third quarter, Ty Gavin ran in a 1-yard touchdown run. In the fourth quarter, USF knotted things up with a Hunter Schneider 4-yard touchdown pass from Cam Dean. Quentin Pringle then responded for Winona with a 2-yard touchdown run. And then USF tied it up late with a Christian Janis 12-yard touchdown reception from Cam Dean. There was 1:19 left on the clock at that point. The Cougars had a tough decision whether to tie the game or go for 2. Decided to tie the game, then kicked off to Winona, and Winona proceeded to drive the ball down the field and score with 38 seconds left. The Cougars were unable to match that in the final minute. So let's go ahead and take a look at the game statistics. You can find the full statistics. They're available at usfcougars.com. USF actually had more yardage than Winona, 463 to 442. That was 281 passing to Winona's 163. Winona outrushed the Cougars 279 to 182. The Cougars, it was a relatively penalty-free game, but the Cougars did have a big penalty on the final defensive drive for the Warriors. First downs, the Cougars had 23 to Winona's 16. Third down conversions were kind of bleak this week, 6 for 16 for the Cougars and 4 for 11 for Winona. And fourth down conversions, the Cougars were 2 for 3. Total time of possession, the Cougars had 35 minutes and 47 seconds. So what we'll do now is we'll bring in Coach Glow here to talk about what happened. I did want to mention before I do that, Adonis Hutchinson did catch his first touchdown of the season. He had 2 catches for 71 yards, was the leading receiver. And Camden Dean passed for 280 yards and 5 touchdowns, and also ran 21 times for 141 yards. So let's go ahead and bring in Coach Glow to tell us a little bit about the game. Coach, welcome back. It's good to have you here. What's your initial reaction to the loss against Winona on Saturday?
Well, kind of unfortunately followed the same script as some of other losses where we had the lead. Look back to Moorhead, look back to this game, and had the lead and weren't able to sustain the momentum in the third quarter. We've struggled in the third quarter to match point for point. It seems like the first, second, and fourth quarter we've been right there. And then As the game kind of wore on, I felt like we got back into the flow of things in the fourth quarter. For me personally, the wind was, in the third quarter, my thought was to try to minimize the wind advantage because it was really tough to kick into the wind. So, you know, I didn't plan on turning the ball over right away in the second and the third quarter and gave them a short field. That didn't help. So some key mistakes at key moments have kind of caused. We've been our own worst enemy sometimes, to be quite frank with you. And so it's just a process of learning and getting better. And I look back at our 5 losses, and even for that matter, our win against Minot could have gone either way. And in those games, there was a couple mistakes Minot made late in the game, and that helped us. And in our 3 losses, to not only to on Saturday versus Winona, but also against Duluth, also against Moorhead. In those 3 games, we've made some critical mistakes late in the game, and we just haven't been able to overcome them. And so, all you can do is go back to work. We had a good workout lift yesterday. Watch the film. The kids are off today, and and tomorrow we'll get back to practice and get ready to go down to Pitt State.
Coach, you guys won the coin toss, and kicked off to Winona. Defense came out, gave up a first down, but then forced the Warriors to punt, and then the offense drove down. Your offense has had some pretty decent quick starts so far this season. What's the key to that?
Well, I think our coaching staff does a really good job in preparation. I think our offense is tough to defend. There's a lot of trade shift in motion. The trade-off is sometimes we get ourselves in a little bit of a pickle, getting lined up on the line of scrimmage. I think we mentioned that from a penalty standpoint, we've got more penalties than our opponents, and a lot of that is a byproduct of there's quite a few false starts or quite a few illegal formations, and so we got to clean that up. But I think Coach Luters and the offensive guys do a great job with the game plan during the week, and they put our kids in a position where I think sometimes the opposing defense struggles to catch up initially. I think you see that stuff on tape, and then all of a sudden you have to defend it. It's a little bit different scenario when you got to see it on Saturday versus a scout team during the week. So, and I think we've got some really good players, and I think our kids understand the game plan. I think that speaks to the week of practice. They're prepared when they come out. And, I think offensively, we've been relatively, successful moving the football and scoring points. I wouldn't say that's been our challenge this season, is scoring points as much as it's been stopping people. So on the other side of the coin defensively, there's a lot of indications there where we have started out relatively strong. I look back at the Minot game. I look back at, even Duluth to some degree, but Moorhead, and I look back at Winona, and there was some pretty solid first quarter defensive efforts. So again, it tells me that the kids are prepared going into the game, but as the game wears on, that's when mistakes are made. We struggle coming out at halftime, and, there's a lot of reasons for it, I'm sure, but you kind of point to some of the youth and inexperience where our kids maybe get tired as the game goes on, or that experience factor starts to wane a little bit, and the guys lose focus and they try to make plays that they're not supposed to make, and instead of just doing their job. So, I could probably sit here and give you 1,000 reasons why, but the fact of the matter is we've got to get better. And so, as a coaching staff, there's certain things that we focus on every week to try to get better at, and we try to stack good practices on top of good practices. And in the long run, it'll pay off. And in the short term, there's some struggles, but that we're going through some growing pains. But, when it's all said and done, I expect us to be a really good football program. And from Saturday to Saturday, that's how we measure it.
Coach, Carter Slakehouse and Adonis Hutchinson scored your first 3 touchdowns off of passes from Cam Dean, but both of them got injured on, I think it was on the touchdown plays. You kind of had a little bit of an opportunity there, or a little bit of a situation at the end of the second quarter and beginning of the third quarter where you were looking for someone to step up. Who were some of the guys that later on in the game kind of stepped up for you?
Well, yeah, it's crazy. I think Jalen Taylor was injured as well, and he got hurt at in the Augie game on a touchdown. So we've had 3 different receivers get injured on touchdowns of all things, right? And, that's especially like for this past game, I think that kind of led into our second half adjustments. You've got a big part of our game plan was what we would call that Z receiver position, and that's what Carter plays. Obviously, it was a big part of last week's game. And it's just it's a spot on our offense where that guy gets the ball in some pretty advantageous situations where he's running crossing routes. And, you try to take advantage of their skill set and their speed and, being able to make people miss in space. And that's kind of our thing. Carter obviously has excelled at that role. I think he's near 50-some catches already this year. And obviously Adonis is a young guy, a freshman who's got a huge future for us, and he had his first touchdown. And then Jalen's a guy that's had some experience in the program that we were kind of counting on. And when those three guys went down, you're right. You got to turn to some other alternative options. And I thought Christian Janis, he's a young kid that's really talented. And to see him make that big touchdown catch, I mean, that's a big time play in a big game when it's, the money's on the table, so to speak. You got to step up and make a play on a fade ball. And man, he took that thing away from that kid and pulled it down in the back corner of the end zone. And, his confidence level has gotten better and better each week. And that was really exciting to see him do that. He had a reverse that he ran the ball pretty hard. We've been talking a lot more with him about being aggressive to the football. And a kid that was out of, West High School, Iowa City West High School, that in high school ran by everybody, was taller, was faster. And now in college, he's fighting some guys that can match him athletically. So now it's the part of his game that has to develop is the actual skill set of a wide receiver, setting guys up on moves and being able to finish runs after you catch it. And then obviously winning those one-on-one battles in the back corner of the end zone, which, in today's college football, there's a lot of advantages that, wide receivers can take advantage of, from body positioning to high pointing footballs and nudging and rubbing and all that kind of stuff. But really proud of his development, his attitude, his demeanor. He's a guy that stopped by my office on Sunday after our lifting session. He's like, "Hey, you all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all right. Are you?" And he's like, "Yeah, coach." He goes, "We're going to get there. Don't worry. Hang in there. We're going to get there." And I mean, this is a freshman, right? He's got a great family. And so that's the kind of kids that, you get down in the dumps a little bit because you got 5 losses, but then you see the kids that you have to be there for and you have to coach and lead, and they sometimes pick you up. So that's the exciting thing about some of these young guys, that they get it. They're working really hard. And yeah, we're not there yet, but when we do get there, and it'll be sooner than later, those will be the guys leading the way.
Coach, this is the second game in a row where Cam Dean has had over 20 carries for you on the ground, and the running backs, the typical running back position, hasn't given the output necessarily that we're used to seeing from the Cougars. Do you have any type of concern with maybe having Cam carry so much of the load going down the stretch here?
Obviously, yes. We've got one of the reasons why that we feel like we can use our quarterback maybe a little bit more than some teams is we feel very confident that we have 2 quarterbacks, and that's not that we can just waste Cam, and if he gets hurt, he gets hurt. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I feel like either quarterback's in the game, you feel like you can still run your offense. And in some programs, you don't feel confident with the second quarterback or the guy that might come in. And so you have to protect the first guy a little bit more, maybe. And we've talked to Cam. I think he did it Saturday, slid a couple times, the NFL rule where you can get down and not get touched. So he's being smarter about that. He took a couple shots at Moorhead that we'd rather him not take. But again, late in the game, goal line, he's a competitor. And some of that stuff you don't coach. You just let the kid play because that's what he's best at. And the thing about the running game is if you look back at the stats, the days that the running backs have had a big day, he's had a very small load. And the days that he's had big carries, typically teams are kind of pinching the front and taking away the inside run game. And a big part of our offense is, if you're going to take that away, then we've got the perimeter game with the quarterback. And I think that's what leads to him having, I know he had another 400 yards of total offense. He had over 500 last week. Most teams don't have 1,000 yards of offense, in 2 weeks with their quarterback, and I think that speaks to the system. It speaks to what we're trying to build here. We want athletic quarterbacks. We don't want a 6'5" statue in the pocket that can't move. We want guys that can make plays with their feet, and everything's give and take. So, he's had a couple balls batted down, maybe because he's shorter. Obviously, he's not a real tall kid. But at the end of the day, you've got to have guys that fit your system. And I think our system is really conducive to a guy who's athletic, can make plays with his feet. He makes some wonderful plays where he gets out of pressure and gets first downs and can convert things. And as a defensive coordinator or a defensive guy myself, you want to pull your hair out trying to defend a guy like that because everybody can be covered. And he's a better athlete than the guys up front. He just makes a move and he's gone. So, yeah, we want to keep him healthy. Yeah, we want to try to do things that he's really good at. Yes, we want running backs to carry the football and be physical and run up inside. We've been really efficient on 4th down for the most part and not afraid to go for it on our own side of the field because you got a guy who can make plays. And, Saturday was a great example of 2 weeks in a row now, people have been jamming up the inside on short yardage, and Cam just pulls it. He goes out the back door for 50. So we're pretty fortunate to have a guy with that ability, and I like to expose that on the field. And Coach Luter's done a nice job getting the ball in his hands.
Yeah, and I was going to mention, I didn't chart the game from Saturday yet, but a lot of those runs that Dean actually ran, they were going to be pass attempts, and he just rolled out of the pocket and there was no one over there. And so he just took it upfield and picked up a couple big first downs for you.
And I'm, as a head coach and a defensive guy, I would much rather see him tuck it, run, get the first down and step out of bounds than risk the ball down the field. Because as we all know, when you throw the football, 3 things happen, right? And 2 are good for the defense, right? You catch it, you drop it, you pick it. So in my mind, I'm not very smart, but the law of averages say the less the ball is in the air, the less chance they have of taking the ball away. And especially as he's running in space, I think you saw that on Saturday. He kind of took a right turn and got out of bounds a couple times, and that's fine. The only time I really want him to dig in and try to get the first down is if it's 3rd down, or if we're, and only if it's 3rd down and later in the game, unless we're backed up and we need that first down to kind of dig out of the red zone that we're pinned in. So we talk about those things, and I talked to him about that on the sideline about, hey, you got to get down. Hey, we don't want you taking that hit. But yeah, otherwise, let the kid play and see what happens.
Coach, defensively, gave up a couple big plays, and that seemed to be the difference in the game.
A couple, a lot.
Yeah. It seemed like, once that running back was able to get the edge or get through there, there was really no one in the back end to catch him or make a play. What kind of things can you do the next couple weeks here to help remedy that situation?
Yeah, well, a play that they were running, we call it pin and pull, where the offensive lineman pins down and then the adjacent lineman pulls out and around. And I think you saw that a couple of times. They had 2 offensive linemen coming around the corner. And many of the times they run it, and people have been attacking this on us, but we call it the dead Ted. So there's a tight end over there and nobody else outside the tight end, right? It's just, some people call it a nub formation, but it's just that backside tight end, and there's nobody else outside of him. And they bring the 2 pullers back to the boundary, and typically it's a numbers game. Back in the old days, Nebraska would run the triple option. They'd run it to the boundary, and people would go crazy. Why would you run the triple option in the boundary? What's a numbers game? And so if you go to, I know there's less field over there, but there's also less defenders. And so when that happens with us, we had during the course of the week, when they had their 2nd and 3rd receivers to the field stacked together, we wanted to be able to handle those 2 guys. And so it put us in a situation where we weren't necessarily short defenders, but we had to fit it just right. And so in that situation, to be honest with you, on both of them, on one, the first touchdown of the game, the defensive line went the wrong way, made a mistake. And on the second one, we didn't get outside and turn it back in. And then we had a chance to make a tackle. We missed the tackle 10 yards down the field. And then the most disappointing thing is, which is as a coach bothers me the most, is I thought our backside pursuit and our effort to chase the guy down, there's a lot of assumptions. In other words, they were assuming he would have been tackled earlier, so they didn't sprint to the football. And we're still working on that you play through the whistle, whether you get there or not, whether you finish on the ball or 20 yards away from the ball. You've got to give great effort throughout the course of the whistle. And so, again, a byproduct of us continue to rep that and coach that and demand that. And, you save big plays with hustle and effort. And we didn't have that at all times on Saturday. So as a coaching staff, you go back and say, okay, because sometimes the old saying of, clear mind equals fast legs. I don't know if our legs were fast because they were tired or they were not clear. And so we asked those questions on Sunday in the film. Did you understand what you had to do? Tell me what you were thinking on this play. And so there's a lot of education going on. And when you're more experienced and when you've been doing the system for a long time, those are less things that you start to see. And so people say, well, how do you know when you're getting better? Well, I know we're getting better when our kids play faster and play with more confidence and they don't second guess themselves. It's no different than you and I driving a car versus maybe our kids at 14, 15 getting their car license, driver's license. There's confidence. You probably text and drive, you can change the radio, you can wave, you can eat a burger, you can eat your, French fries while you're driving. And I've got to teach my 15-year-old kid how to drive. And you're like bare knuckle on the steering wheel, because he's not experienced. He doesn't have a feel for driving. And so it's no different in coaching. We've got our kids to feel confident, comfortable. Certainly don't want to, this is a public service announcement. We don't want to text and drive. I'm not advocating texting and driving. I'm just saying to change the radio, to eat your French fries, to get a drink of your soda. I do that probably without even thinking about it. Whereas if I was a 15-year-old kid starting to drive, those are the last things I should be doing. I should be focusing on the road. We've got to get to that point where we can change the radio station, eat a French fry, drink our shake, and still be able to drive the car.
Yeah, Coach, you're not going to get me to admit to a Class 2 misdemeanor on the program today. But,
I just thought since you try to get me in trouble sometimes with the commissioner and the officials, I thought I'd throw it back at you so we can play that game.
Coach, do you have any final thoughts on the game against Winona State?
No, it's funny. A couple people said, man, Winona seems to have your number. And I guess to me, I don't look at it that way. This is my first year going through it with this football squad. Every game, if we don't win, they've got our number. And I think our kids, they care more than you can ever imagine. It was a very somber locker room. It was a very somber Sunday. But we got to get past that, and in 24 hours, let it go. Just like if you win a game, you let it go. We've got another big game coming up this week. We're going to go down and see one of the top 5 teams in the country. We're going to go on the road into a hostile environment, 12, 15,000 people. It's sold out. It's homecoming. We're the sacrificial lamb. Like, I get that, right? But that's only up to us if we want to be the sacrificial lamb. If we go down there and we execute, we play our tails off, and we have confidence, we have a couple big plays early, well, let's get ourselves into a slugfest and see what happens. If not, we might get beat by 50. That's what I told them. And at the end of the day, we are responsible for our own success and failures in this program, and we're going to take that to heart. I'm going to take the blame. We didn't play well enough. We didn't score enough. We didn't stop them enough. Whatever the case might be, we need to figure that out as coaches and try to be better next week and give our best effort. And the one thing I'll tell you is I think our kids fought to the very end. I decided to let them score at the end. It's funny. Everybody sits on their couch at home. And everyone thinks they're a coach. And then you're in that moment. And I'm like, hey, we got to let them score here, because then I felt we had a better chance to score a touchdown than we did to stopping them from a field goal opportunity from the 10-yard line, right? And so some of those things we explained to our players. They kick the ball off. It bounces off our chest and goes out of bounds. Let the ball go. We're teaching these things as we go. And, I'm pretty confident that I'm not sure when it's going to happen, but it will happen when people, they're asking different questions other than how come you lost again? And, nobody wants to lose. We've been lose, win, and now we've lost. If we don't play well, it'll be loss. And if we don't play well the following week, it'll be loss. So, it's up to us. We control our own destiny. It doesn't matter the logo, who we're playing. And, I'm excited to go to Pitt State and see what we can do.
Well, Coach, you mentioned that you play Pittsburg State week 9. The game's going to take place Saturday, October 28th in Pittsburg, Kansas. It'll be at Carney Smith Stadium. The kickoff is scheduled for 2:00 p.m. You can watch on the internet. I'm not exactly sure the location. So what I would recommend is, if you're not going to the game and you're going to be in the Sioux Falls area, tune in to our buddies Tom Frederick and Tim Hyatt on KWSN, 98.1 FM, 12:30 a.m. or at kwsn.com. Their pregame show starts at 1:30. It says on the USF website, Pitt State's number 4. I think they're number 3 in another poll, and they're number 2 in some poll. They're a top 5 team, right? So I was gonna try to share here something that we maybe have found. This was sent to us a while ago here, and this is a video of the Pitt State walking in. If you can see that on my screen, that's them walking into the stadium. Kind of a cool atmosphere, a neat atmosphere for college football. A little bit different than what some of the stuff we've seen in the Northern Sun, Coach. They've got all kinds of stuff. I've heard that they've got a band playing while you guys are going to be on offense. They've got, on their hype video, they've got bands or fans holding the adult beverages right behind the team. So it's going to be an interesting atmosphere in the game on Saturday, Coach. What do we expect to see?
Well, I mean, if they got adult beverages, I mean, I know we've seen that a few times this year. We've had I've did a few fist bumps with some fans at Moorhead and at Duluth that are indulging in the spirits, you could say. And yeah, I mean, that's college football, and it's awesome. And that's one of the reasons why, when the opportunity came to go down there, I think most people, maybe they don't understand, but Upper Iowa left the league. And so wherever Upper Iowa was in your schedule, that was your open date. And of all the teams in our conference, there was only one team that didn't fill their open date. And we had an opportunity basically with what was available, driving distance, the ability to fly, the cost to fly, whatever. This was, unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, the best opportunity we had to play a college football game on Saturday. And in my first year in the program, I had little to no interest in taking a bye week. I want to play football here. Our kids deserve to play football. It doesn't do us any good to practice. You get better by playing football. You get better by playing football games. That's the best way to become a better football player. And I could care less if they're number 1 in the country or number 101. At the end of the day, they put their pants on just like we do. We got to go down there, and we're not going to ever look at ourselves as inferior. We respect, but we don't fear. And I'm ready to go. Like I said, they're a really good football team. But as maybe from my perspective and my experiences in the past, I've seen literally, I played with the best teams in the country. And I think there was a stretch at Mankato where 4 straight years in a row, we played the Harlan Hill Trophy winner. And the Harlan Hill Trophy, as most people know, is the Division II equivalent to the Heisman. So to me, the talent level and all that, it's not daunting. It's exciting. I mean, this is why you come to the University of Sioux Falls to play in big-time games. And I hope, Chad, this is a precursor to the future at USF. Let's line up against the best in the country. Let's, and I know people are saying, oh, man, they're really good. Yeah, they are. But that's what I wanted to say about us. And if you want to be the man, as they say, Ric Flair, you got to beat the man. And, we're rooting, tooting, diamond ring, diamond watch wearing, right? Jet plane flying, rooting, tooting, I mean, that's the attitude we got to have. And fake it till you make it, right? I mean, that's my point. And this program is going to be built on a solid foundation that is going to take on all comers. And we're not going to apologize for climbing the mountain, so to speak. And to play, a team and get a win and just to maybe get to, another win, that's not really my thing. My thing is to attack this thing full speed ahead. When the opportunity came up, I'm not going to lie. My first thing was, is that the only option? I'm not going to sit here and brag too much. Is that the only option is Pitt State? But the more I talk with it and our former AD, Pam, and, there were some other things on the table there too. It's a 7-hour bus ride. It's not terrible. It's a great atmosphere. We're going to play on their homecoming, So, yeah, it's just we're creating a culture here. And this culture that we're going to walk into, at least this is a football team that I think was 3-8 in 2019 or 2020. So, I look across the country. Valdosta State was 3-8 or something like that last year with Tremaine, the former DC here. And now they're 7-1. Central Missouri was struggling last year. They were 4-7. Now they're 7-1. So, in this world of transfer portals and development, and all that, we'll be better, sooner than later. And this is a great opportunity for us to see what it looks like.
Yeah. Realistically, I'm not gonna. Well, I'll go ahead and count. The Cougars aren't going to make the playoffs this year.
Oh yeah, no, we're out. I mean,
yeah. So you can treat this kind of like, hey, this is like a playoff game for us. We're going to see a playoff type opponent right now, without actually making it to the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think that there's guys on this football team that, in my opinion, will play in playoff games while I'm here in this program. And that's my goal. That's what we're shooting for. Not only that, we're talking about winning playoff games. I'm talking about being in the conversation for what a national championship looks like. And I know they did it here before. I get it was the NAIA level. But at Minnesota State, I was privileged enough to be a part of that program and lucky enough to see what it takes and to get there and to play multiple championship type programs, Ferris States and all those guys. I know what it looks like. And we're not there yet. I don't make any bones about it. I don't apologize for it. We're going to get there. That's my goal. I want to get there. And this program down there has historically been a really good football program. Obviously, the atmosphere is intense. The Northwest Missouri States of the world, they beat Northwest at Northwest 28-7, I think, on Saturday. And Northwest hasn't missed the playoffs in 15, 16, 17 years. And they're probably out of the playoff picture. So everybody kind of goes through this. Northwest is 4-3, I think. I don't know the last time Northwest Missouri State was 4-3. But at one time, Coach Cheersma was down in Northwest in Maryville, Missouri. They had aspirations of being a powerhouse program just like we do. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said about this game. When the opportunity came up to play them, I had two thoughts. Number one, either we're going to be in the playoff hunt, and this is going to prepare us for the playoffs, or we won't be in the playoff hunt at that point in the season, probably, most likely. And it gives us a chance to see what we're made of, and let's go. I mean, I don't know what you benefit by sitting home and watching on TV. I don't want to ever be the guy that watches on the sideline. I told that to the kids. We talked about the man in the arena poem, right? I don't ever want to be the guy that's tailgating and saying I coulda, woulda, shoulda, and watching from the bench. I want to be a guy that's out there on the field making a difference in the outcome of the game. And that's the kind of guys we want here. So we're the man in the arena. And everyone's going to cast stones and talk about us and all that kind of stuff. I'm already hearing it. I get it. I get it. That's part of the deal. But I only concern myself with the people that are with me in the arena, our players, our fans, our families. And that's all I can worry about. But more importantly, it's those 106 guys on the roster that I'm responsible for, that I'm going to lead those guys the best I can. And let's go down there and take on the best and see what happens.
Well, Coach, on the field, what do we expect to see out of the Gorillas on Saturday?
Well, I love the way they play defense. They're a fast. We talk about it in the business. They close really fast. They're playing very fast and confident. And you look at their defensive end, he's not the biggest guy in the world, but man, does he play hard and physical, and he really causes you problems. Offensively, they're big, they're physical up front, they're very explosive at wide receiver. And, They do have two quarterbacks, ironically, a thrower and a passer. But I expect a football team that'll be playing with a lot of confidence, a team that's going to be much faster than what we've seen lately. They're going to have speed on the perimeter, and those are things that we've got to be able to account for. But, yeah, a very well-coached physical football team. I don't know their head coach personally, but just kind of following his history a little bit. He's had some Division I experience, and, they run it like a Division I program. And so we're excited to go down there and compete.
Yeah, you mentioned the two quarterbacks. They both complete around 70% of their passes, but the one, as you mentioned, is a little bit more of a runner than a thrower. He's got I think over 250 yards rushing on the season. They have four guys that run the ball, so they got a pretty decent stable of running backs, a pretty balanced offense. Are the Cougars up to the challenge here this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely up for the challenge. Whether or not we're successful, I guess we'll find out on Saturday. But it starts with a great off day today. Honestly, rest up, get right, get in treatment, and then come in tomorrow with a lift at 6:30 in the morning and get a great lift in. And you can't, the old saying, how do you eat an elephant? Like one bite at a time. And so what we do today will impact Saturday, and that's what we're trying to teach our kids. And as we move forward, we're going to talk about the big lights, the big show, the crowd, the noise. Is that going to bother us? We have some challenges. There's no doubt. But, man, am I excited to see what these guys do. I'm excited. I can't wait. I mean, it's an awesome opportunity. I would much rather go and play this game than go play somewhere in the middle of, wherever with nobody there and nobody cares. So this is, you signed up for it, so let's run up the hill. Let's go,
All right. Cougars this Saturday, 2:00 down at Pitt State. As I mentioned, if you're not able to make the trip down there, make sure to tune in on KWSN. Tom Frederick and Tim Hyatt will be on the call. Let's go ahead and go to our mailbag section of the show here, Coach. A couple questions came in.
By the way, I've gotten a lot of comments about Reese's. My mother-in-law dropped off about 10 pounds of Reese's, and I'm definitely paying for it a week later. So thank you for your sponsorship of Reese's and the extra 5 pounds on my waistline.
All right. First question is from Cougar 1997. He was wondering, when you mentioned you had a walkthrough on Friday, what is a walkthrough? What do the players wear? Do they wear shells? Do they wear helmets?
Yeah.
What type of thing is a walkthrough?
So, a lot of people do it differently. Some programs don't even practice on Friday, believe it or not. Some practice on Thursdays and take off Tuesday or whatever. But we take off Monday. We practice in helmet and shoulder pads. Or full pads or whatever, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday it starts off with a team meeting, and then we go into about a 45-minute film review, and then we go outside for a walkthrough or run through where Coach Cloward, our strength coach, takes these guys through a warm-up routine. We try to get the blood flowing a little bit, and then we review special teams. We'll jog through our special teams calls, make sure the substitution patterns are right. I'll give a lot of credit to Coach Littlejohn. I think I don't know if we've had any situational special teams where we have too many players or the wrong guys in the field. So he's done a really good job with that. But we work on that on Friday to try to eliminate those type of situations. And then after that, we get about a 35-minute offense-defensive period where a lot of times our younger players, our red shirt, the non-travel guys, they're not there. Those guys actually lift at 6:30 in the morning on Fridays, and then they're off until Saturday or until we get back on the road on Sunday. So it's just the guys that are traveling or planned or dressing. And, the second team will look at show the defensive look, and the first team will run the plays and vice versa. And then on defense, our second team defense will be the offense, and they'll run plays, and then we'll flip-flop it. So that's kind of how we review the calls. And then after that, we go back inside and watch more film for about another 15, 20 minutes. And then I address the team. And if we're on the road, we go to dinner. If we're not on the road, the kids are free for the night. And so, but yeah, that's basically what a Friday looks like. Helmets and practice jerseys and shorts. Yeah. Okay. And I mean, we're not, and we tape up and they got their cleats on, all that, but we are not trying to hit. We're not trying to be physical. We're trying to mentally do a quick run through, jog through, probably half speed, nothing crazy.
A couple different people, both Laker and Twitterless Jeff, were kind of asking, hey, you how do you respond? How do you interact with the team after a loss?
Well, I'll be honest with you, kind of how I'm feeling. On Saturday, I was pretty disappointed. I was kind of questioning our effort a little bit, to be honest with you. I talked about the long touchdown run and not fitting stuff properly and not knowing what we were doing on a couple of plays. some of the things that we did in special teams, we made a couple of mental errors. Those are things that we can't have. There's a lot of things the other team does that you can't control, but the things that you can control, and if it's stuff that we can control that we don't do well, that fires me up because we work and talk about it and the focus and all that. And, part of it is with our group right now, there's a lot of learning going on. And as much as I'd love to tell you, well, we didn't fix it, but we did fix it or whatever, there's a lot of back and forth. And so dealing with the psyche and how the kids feel and all that kind of stuff, there's a lot of things that go into it, right? And we're trying really hard to make sure that, we handle it the right way. But I told the guys, hey, listen, point blank, if you're not ready to come back to work on Tuesday and practice hard, then don't come. I just said that. Now, I would have suspect they're all going to come back. But the point I'm trying to make is if you're not about this, you can't just be about it when you're 8-0. You got to be about it when you're 3-5. Like, that's what you're all about. And if you don't love football, this is going to be a real painful process. But if you love football and you love trying to get better and you love to compete, then I'll see you on Tuesday. So that's what I told them.
Thanks, Coach. I know that's a tough one because a lot of the people out there just aren't in the locker room or haven't been in the locker room for years. Laker actually mentioned our coach used to yell at us a lot, and then we would run after losses. And so
and I think in the past I try not to meet on the field. I know a lot of teams, if you notice that, a lot of teams meet on the field after the game. And if we're at home, I like to go right into our team room, right in the back of the end zone, because I want to talk to them. I don't want them distracted. I want them to hear the message. And so many times I've been places where you meet on the field after the game and you can't hear the band's playing. There's people running by yelling. You have no focus with these guys. Plus, I want the first message after the game to be from me, not from Aunt Susie who says, how come you guys didn't throw it on third down? I don't want. And I tell them, hey, what you say when you walk out of here is detrimental to our football team, or it's helpful to anybody. Because if you think it and you speak it, you're bringing that attitude, and we don't need that. I want you to be positive. I want you to walk out of here. Yeah, we got to be better. Nobody wants to lose. Nobody wants to play bad. It happens sometimes. Sometimes it happens more than you like. But how we handle it and what we say to our family and friends is going to be a huge, my wife starts into, you shouldn't have called that. Hey, honey, I love you, babe, but we ain't talking about that right now. I don't want to hear it. We're trying hard. Like, I didn't come home till 8 o'clock on Sunday night and the guy left here at 7:30 in the morning. Yeah, I don't need you telling me why we shouldn't have gone for it. And it's funny. I asked the question to our team, who thought that was a great call at Moorhead that we went for it on 4th and 1 from our own 20? Not every guy in the room raised his hand. I said, that's fine. But until you spend 3 hours during the week deciding on that call, then, the man in the arena, it comes back to that same poem.
I've heard that your wife does pay attention to the message boards out there as well. So she's pretty tuned into what's going on.
She's so involved in the message board that she wants to know if Laker takes 2%, 1%, or a whole chocolate milk. That's how involved she is. She's all about the message boards. She's like, I can't believe it. I go, honey, stop. I even stopped listening to I tune it all out because I'm so sure of what we're doing is the right thing to do and how we treat the kids and how we go about our business. That somebody else's opinion, I say to our players all the time, man, if I wouldn't ask for your advice, then why do I care about your opinion? Right?
Yep.
I mean, I would, no offense, but some of those guys in the message board, some of those girls in the message board, I could care less what they think because they're all opinions. It's like being the streak. I want to continue the winning streak here at USF. I don't think it takes a rocket science to figure out that we're kind of teetering on, the potential of maybe not being a winning record this year. That's of concern. That's something that I'm very well aware of. But at the same token, I wasn't going to say, let's not play Pitt State just in case we're not going to be 6-5. Like, that's not how I look at things. I wasn't a part of the winning streak, yet it still matters to me because as a head football coach at the University of Sioux Falls, I know that's a big deal. I'm trying my hardest to avoid that losing record. But I also have to make decisions that are best for the program moving forward, and taking this game against Pitt State, which is going to be a challenge, which you could probably argue the odds would not be in our favor. We are the underdog. I'm not going to shy away from opportunities to compete and put our kids in the best situation to be better. We're always trying to get better. And then, if we're unfortunate on Saturday and we have our 6th loss, I think we all know what that means. It doesn't mean we're going to fold and go 3-8. It means we're going to try to be 5-6 or 4-6, 4-5 or whatever down the road. So I'm aware of all that stuff. And I'm sure people will ask that question to me this week because it's obviously becoming more relevant. And it's disappointing that we're in the situation that we're in. But I look back at our season, and we have nobody to blame but ourselves. We've put ourselves in this situation. We've lost multiple one-score games. We got to find a way to win those games. And so it truly is a full team effort, and we've got to be better.
All right, Coach. We'll go ahead and wrap up right there. Thanks so much for joining us this week. We really appreciate it. Hopefully we'll see you next week after a big W. But
hopefully, you know something I don't know. Am I not going to be?
That's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, you could say, "Hey, see you next week." It's funny, I see the clock up top, and we're at 40 minutes or whatever. And after a loss, you would think it'd be shorter. And I'm the only guy in America that after a loss, it's probably longer. But I love what I do. I appreciate everybody's support. The tailgating was outstanding once again, and I look forward to going down there and competing and trying to get ourselves a victory as well.
All right, thanks, Coach. Good luck this weekend.
All right, thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and wrap up. A little shout out here to the Cougar Football Legacy Association. The Cougar Football Legacy Association's mission is to bring alumni, family, friends, and supporters together to help equip the USF football program with the resources necessary to continue its winning legacy. To find out more information about the Cougar Football Legacy Association, visit www.coulegacy.com. That wraps up our show for this week. Until next week, stay safe and go Cougars.